Shavua Tov, everyone. Welcome to week 81 in our Tillis Tells WhatsApp Saturday Night Stories group. I adapted the story from the Yeshiva Nevei Tzion website, and I call it The Judge with a Remarkable Memory. The father of Yair Eitan ran a wholesale produce distribution company, and when Yair was old enough, so his father assigned him a truck and a delivery route. Now, one of the places where he stopped on his route once a week was a yeshiva, a yeshiva Leiv Nefesh. I didn't mention this was in the north of Israel somewhere, but I don't know exactly where. And now Yair had been raised completely secular, without any Torah background. His father not only was not religious, he was vehemently anti-religious. So Yair was kind of surprised at himself that he enjoyed the atmosphere of the yeshiva when he stopped there. The boys studying with joy and excitement, not like in school where the students were forced to study and couldn't wait to leave the classroom. And so after a few weeks, so he let himself be drawn into conversation by some of the students. And a few weeks after that, he began to delay his departure in order to sit and study for a few minutes with one of the boys, and so it went. Eventually, he told his father how much he enjoyed his stops at the yeshiva, and his father blew up. No son of mine is going to become a worthless, bearded, superstitious Haredi. I will no longer allow you to drive that route, and I don't want you to have anything to do with that yeshiva or any yeshiva ever again. Well, Yair had already learned enough to know that the Torah instructs us to honor our parents, except in the situation where they tell us to do things that goes against the Torah. In other words, the same Torah that gives us the commandment of honor your parents is the Torah that tells us when there are exemptions to that. So he no longer was delivered to that yeshiva, but he no longer delivered to that yeshiva. But he made inquiries and found another yeshiva to go to. I assume that the yeshiva that he went to is Nevei Tzion, since that's who's publicizing the study. The story, and he when he realized that he wanted to do that full time, so he didn't ask his parents. He just left a note one day and left home without them realizing it. And his father got really upset and began an intensive search to find him, and he eventually did find him and made him come home. At this point, Yair was 18 years old. And not only did he take him out of the yeshiva and force him home, but he blamed not his current Rosh Yeshiva at Nevei Tzion, but at the first Rosh Yeshiva at Leiv Nefesh. He blamed him for the situation. He filed a claim in court against him for brainwashing his son and for dragging him into the yeshiva. Well, word on this got out. That is, this was the day before social media and cell phones, but nevertheless, word spread very quickly through newspapers and radio about this very unusual trial coming up. And at the day of the court trial, the courtroom was packed. When Yair was called as a witness, so his testimony did not help the prosecution at all. Of course, he said nobody influenced him. He went to the yeshiva of his own volition, and that is what he wants, and that's what he wants to do at this point in his life. While Yair was testifying, the judge, who was an elderly person, it seemed that his attention was wandering a little bit. He would shift his gaze from Yair and stare at Yair's father every once in a while. And after Yair stepped down from the witness stand, so the judge requested that Mr. Eitan should come up to the witness stand. And Yair's father was quite surprised, but at being summoned by the judge himself. but he came up to the stand, and the judge asked him, "Are you of Eastern European descent?" And and he said yes. He didn't know why the judge was asking him this. And then the judge really shocked him by saying, "And perhaps in Europe your family name was Stark." Stark. Very interesting, and he admitted that his name had been Stark, which, by the way, is a very interesting name change. Stark in Hebrew means strong, powerful, and Eitan in Hebrew means powerful. In fact, there's a connection to Yud Kislev coming up, that the letters of Tanya can be rearranged to spell Eitan. That's not part of the story. That's a present from me to you. And when he said yes, my name was Stark. So he asked him, did you live in Pinsk? And to that he also said yes. He couldn't understand how the judge knew all of these things about him. Then the judge then revealed what was going on. He said, "I'm also from Pinsk, and I remember you well. You came from one of the most respected families in the Jewish community. Your father was a deeply religious and highly respected man, and your mother was renowned for her kindness. She was often cooked meals for the poor and for the ill on a regular basis. And I remember when you were 18 years old, just like your son you're here now, you openly departed from your parents' ways. You stopped being religious at all. You publicly desecrated the Shabbat. And the first time you did that, it was like your father aged overnight. And he seemed to be like a person in mourning. And your mother, she would cry a river of tears every Friday night before lighting the candles. Everybody in town knew about this. And I personally often wondered what became of all of her tears. I'm not such a religious person, but I know there's a God who runs the world," the judge said. And I could not understand how the tears of so righteous a woman could be ignored in heaven. So today my question has been answered. I can see that her tears were not shed in vain. Today, almost 50 years later, our grandson has returned to the way of his ancestors. Mr. Eitan, I'm sure you remember that on more than one occasion, friends of your parents pleaded with you that for your parents' sake, you should at least refrain from public transgression. Not keeping the commandments is, I'm explaining, not keeping the commandments is one thing. A person that can't control himself, his desires, whatever. But doing it in public is considered an extra level of brazenness and is much more serious. So they asked you at least not to publicly desecrate the Shabbat and do other sins in public. And I remember your response. You said, "I'm now 18 and I make my own decisions. I can live my life in any way I please." Well, Mr. Eitan, you dare to make charges? You dare to file charges against your son who is 18 years old and has chosen to return to the ways that you abandoned? Case dismissed.